Why did Arthur Morgan turn on Dutch, even though he was never a clean man himself? That's the question that stuck with me, not just while playing Red Dead Redemption 2, but long after it ended. Because Arthur wasn't some righteous outlaw. He was a thief, a killer. He did terrible things, and for most of his life, he didn't flinch. But when it really mattered, when everything started to fall apart, he changed. So what flipped? What made a loyal gunman finally look his leader in the eye and say, "You're wrong"? To answer that, you have to go way back. Not to the end of the game, but to the beginning of Arthur's life. Arthur didn't stumble into the Van der Linde gang. He was raised in it. Dutch took him in when he was just a kid. That's important because it means Dutch wasn't just his boss. He was more like a father. Arthur didn't join the gang for money or power. He was born into it, and that shaped everything. Dutch taught Arthur that the world was broken, that civilization was a lie, and only outlaws were free. That sounded noble at first. It even felt righteous. Robbing from the rich? Beating the system? It gave Arthur purpose. And for a long time, he didn't question it. But here's the thing about Dutch, he knew how to talk. He could spin a lie into a mission. He could make selfish decisions sound like noble ones. And Arthur, being raised by him, believed it all. He followed Dutch through it all. The robberies, the shootouts, the constant running. Arthur believed that Dutch had a plan, that it was all building towards something better. But over time, that belief started to rot. The first real crack in Dutch's armor? It wasn't a single betrayal. It was Hosea's death. Hosea wasn't just Dutch's partner. He was the one man who could pull him back when he got too reckless. He didn't just chase scores. He planned, he thought things through. If Dutch was fire, Hosea was the ice that kept it from burning the whole gang down. When Hosea died during the St. Denis heist, a job Dutch pushed for, even though it smelled like a trap, something shifted in Arthur. That moment didn't just cost him a friend. It exposed how far Dutch would go to prove he was right, even when everyone knew he wasn't. And what made it worse? Dutch didn't stop. He got colder, more paranoid. He started ignoring the people who challenged him and listening more to the one person who never did, Micah Bell. Mike is a snake, but he's a clever one. He didn't come at Dutch directly. He slid in when Dutch was at his weakest, whispering loyalty, feeding his ego. Every time someone raised a concern, Micah was there to spin it. They're doubting you. They're scared. They don't believe in a plan. And Dutch, he ate it up. Arthur saw it happening. He saw Micah climb up the ladder not by earning respect, but by always telling Dutch what he wanted to hear. Meanwhile, Arthur, the one who had been loyal for years, started getting pushed aside. At first, Arthur thought Dutch was just slipping. Maybe grief, maybe pressure. But then came the trolley station job, and Arthur realized Dutch didn't just make bad calls. He stopped caring who paid the price. Then came the moment that changed everything. Arthur's diagnosis. Getting tuberculosis wasn't just a plot twist. It was Arthur's wake-up call. The moment he started seeing everything through a sharper lens. He had always lived like he had unlimited time. Now he knew he didn't. And what did he see with that limited time? A gang falling apart, Dutch spiraling, Micah rising, and John, a man trying to be more than an outlaw, constantly being pulled back into the mess. This is where Arthur's real transformation begins. He stops thinking like a soldier. He starts thinking like a man with regrets. He starts asking questions he never asked before, like, what does all this actually mean? Who did I become? And most importantly, can any of this be made right? That's why he starts helping John. Not just out of loyalty, but because he sees John as someone who still has a future. Arthur knows his is gone, but if he can get John out, maybe something good can still come from all the bad they did. And that's when Arthur stops following orders. He starts challenging Dutch, not out of hate, but out of love for what the gang used to be, out of pain for what it became. Because it wasn't just Dutch losing his mind, it was the whole dream crumbling. And Arthur was the only one still trying to hold on to the truth. But Micah wouldn't let that happen. Micah wasn't just a manipulator. He was a virus, spreading doubt, turning Dutch against his own people. And the worst part? Dutch didn't even fight it. You remember the scene. Arthur confronts Micah. Micah lies, spins it, throws dirt on Arthur's name. Dutch walks in and just stands there, silent, watching, not defending Arthur, not stopping Micah. That silence? That's the betrayal. Arthur realizes Dutch is gone. The man he followed his whole life is just a shell now, filled with pride, fear, and empty words. From that point on, Arthur's not fighting for the gang anymore. He's fighting for something deeper, his soul. He's not trying to save the dream. He's trying to leave behind something that isn't just violence and failure. Helping John escape, facing Micah, telling Dutch the truth, even in the end, it's Arthur choosing clarity over loyalty. Choosing what's right, even if it's too late for himself. In that final scene, depending on your honor, you see Arthur looking at the sunrise. Calm, ready, because for once, he didn't run. He didn't kill to escape. He stood for something. He wasn't perfect, but he was finally honest. Arthur didn't turn on Dutch because he wanted revenge. He turned on him because he couldn't lie to himself anymore. Dutch didn't lose Arthur. He let him go the moment he stopped being worth following. Arthur Morgan's story isn't just about loyalty or betrayal. It's about clarity, the kind that only comes when you've run out of time and you're forced to decide what actually matters. That's what makes his arcs so rare in games. Most characters stay who they are until the credits roll. Arthur doesn't. He shifts, not because of some external reward, but because of internal reckoning. He starts the game surviving for Dutch. He ends it dying for John. And that shift, it hits hard, because deep down, Arthur knew who he was all along. He just didn't want to admit it. He tried to play the part, the enforcer, the outlaw, the loyal son. But when all the noise faded, he saw the truth. Dutch's dream was never real. The gang's loyalty was one-sided, and the only thing that could still matter was helping someone else get free. That's why Arthur isn't a hero in the traditional sense. He doesn't win, he doesn't survive, but he chooses to die with purpose. He faces the end, not begging for redemption, but creating space for someone else to live better than he did. And when you see him at that cliff, barely breathing, looking at the sky, that's not just a death scene. That's peace. That's Arthur finally letting go of all the lies, all the weight, all the pretending. He may have started as Dutch's right hand, but he died as his own man.